Good evening, everybody, and welcome to, gosh, what number is this? It's probably, let's see here, the 68th of our Glamour webinars. And you see in front of you here a very familiar symbol, and it is complex. And we will be maybe doing a little approach to the whole idea of how you interpret such a symbol. Now, actually, I undertook this kind of interpretation in my video book, ebook called the Egoic Lotus, and it took a lot of doing, but at least, it's something we're familiar with, and we might at least discuss the major approach to it. Now, let's have a little alignment. I just certainly want to welcome all of you. Yes, Alexandra, Angela, Annette, Ariel, Barbara, Bianca, Bibi, Carl, Catherine, Ecclesia, Deborah, Frederick, Gregory, Gretchen, yes, Gretchen, Helen, Jean-Pierre, and I'm kind of jumping the gun here. And Joe's here, Joanne, or Joan, and Joanne, and then John, Yopie, Karen, Catherine, Lourdes, Marianne, Michael, Nantnie, and Nienke, and Olivia, Stacia, Susan, Victoria, Winnie, Yvonne. Okay, welcome to you all, and BL is helping us here with staff, and Joe is around somewhere, I know. And we're going to continue our readings in the Glamour book. But just for a moment, let us come together wherever we are, as if in one field of consciousness. So that any impression that impacts the field will be, as it were, available to everybody. And we create a field of invocation which can draw down the energies of wide mental understanding, intuition, even the spiritual will, and basically we're offering ourselves together for the purpose of service, to help clarify this glamorous condition on the astral plane, and basically in the Kama monastic field, which has so many imprisoned, and of course they don't know it. So we try to bring truth into the astral field, and the motivation not to speak and think according to our biases and our desires, but to speak and think, or in the right order, think and speak according to our perception of the truth. And then the freedom will come, we're told, because the truth will set us free, and the usual fears of the astral plane will be replaced by the energy of the love of the soul, and the higher forms of love. So, just an Om. Quite a symbol, isn't it, before our eyes there? And maybe we'll come back to that, but I just want you to notice, we'll have a little review. And this review, he keeps on repeating the approach, and always from a slightly different angle. So we have the following stages in the analysis of our symbol, or any symbol. The exo-consideration, exoteric, line, form, color, naming these concrete things and noticing them and numbering them, we might say. Number two, a comprehension in the astral or emotional body of its quality. It's going to be different for everybody. The reaction of a sensitive response to the impact of its qualitative nature. Number three, a conceptual consideration of its underlying idea, of what it is intended to teach, of the intellectual meaning it is intended to convey. Number four, the stage of the synthetic grasp of the purpose of a symbol, of its place in an ordered manifesting plan, of its true unified intent. And finally, maybe, the most difficult, of course, and the most subtle, number five, identification with the quality and purpose of the symbol as it is illuminated by the mind held steady in the light. This is going to be our soul-infused mind, and later a mind which is infused by the abstract mind and intuition and the spiritual will. So this final stage will bring into activity the brain as well as the mind, and it's very necessary to get through to our dense physical apparatus if we're going to manifest in these lower subplanes the nature of the symbol and make it really useful. So those are the five things to have in mind, and we'll come back to them. We're on number 68, and we're looking at some of the academic reading here. It's amazing how, I guess Master DK gave these, what are now books, out as lesson sets, and they would come every so often, and since these are perhaps unfamiliar ideas to many of the readers in his group, he would repeat himself, but always from a slightly different angle. So he's really trying to give us an anchoring in this question of interpreting a symbol, and really to create the consciousness which is adept at spiritual reading, and which would mean that we somehow were focusing within the causal body, or at least receptive to the third subplane ability found within the causal body. And we would call that spiritual discernment. So the study of symbols viewed as a whole, this is what we're taking up right now, involves three stages. First, the investigation of a symbol and the consequent progress of the analyst, that's what we are, using the fifth ray from one progressive stage of awareness to another, to a gradual inclusion of the entire field covered by the symbol, and we're obviously moving from the concrete to the abstract, and thence to the intuitive realization. So, we want to deepen our understanding of what is transpiring on the higher planes, and we're using the symbol to do that. Now, secondly, an intuitive perception of the symbols to be seen everywhere in divine manifestation. So we would become spiritual readers of our environment, the external environment and sometimes the subtle environment, all pointing eventually towards the realm of subjectivity, which begins with the soul and not really with the subtle bodies. So, as I was saying, spiritual reading.
Michael?
Yes.
Excuse
me. Can you hear me?
You have, yes, I can hear you. You have a question there from Michael?
Right. Michael, I'm not going to take questions until I finish going through a little bit. But let me just see what it is. Aha. Right. Now, that's my wife's picture. Tuija updated this, and her picture is better. And she would probably really like me to use it, but if I go on a hunt for that, I'm going to spend some time. So, right, I'll try to do that next time. Of course, you seem to stimulate in me the desire to at least see whether anything is there. AAB diagrams, and it's not there immediately. So that I couldn't find it immediately. So that's why I'm not using it, but you're correct. There's a better picture of this. Okay, but in general, I'm just going to stick to the reading, and then we'll have the opportunity to do this. I don't know. I switched computers, and something happened, and I may have to ask Tuija to send me again her picture in which red is no longer present and the color rose is present, which is correct. And there's a shifting of the ways that the petals touch the subplanes of the higher mental plane. I should have thought of that, but okay, we are where we are. Now, right. So the third factor is the use of symbols on the physical plane, the use of them, and their right adaptation to a seen and recognized purpose, leading to the subsequent magnetization of the symbol with the needed quality through which the idea from the Buddhic plane and on upward can make its presence felt. So they are conduits. They are literally symbols of transformation, as Jung called them, and they carry energy. They are transmitters, and they bring it all the way through to the physical plane if the alignment is correct and the understanding is there. So an idea, ideas are beings without form in a way. Every one of us is an idea. Every being that exists is really an idea. But the origin of the idea, as far as the world of effects is concerned, the origin is on higher vibratory levels, beginning with the Buddhic plane, and we know why, because the Buddhic plane is the first cosmic ether. And so the archetype is there, and beyond. So an idea can make its presence felt in order that the intuited qualified idea may find proper form on the physical plane. And let's just say that this is the white magical process. Inspired in us is a soul idea, or perhaps an idea from even higher, and we have to find a way to clothe it in the appropriate types of subplane matter so it puts it in an appearance on the dense physical plane and has a transformative effect. So basically, he is reviewing from another perspective the way the symbols are used. From a broad comprehension to the details, from the details to the depth. And by now, I think we probably have it. So, what's his statement? Deal, therefore, with symbols in a wide generalization, exoteric, conceptual, and esoteric, and, let's just say with two intermediary phases, which he's given us, but add to that an analysis of your sensitivity and response to the quality of the symbol. Very simply, how does it affect you? All right. Now he says, okay, let me recapitulate for a minute. He's been recapitulating all this time, it seems. Let me recapitulate for a moment. First of all, it is valuable to remember that the study of the symbol exoterically involves the use of the brain and the memory. In a way, it's a very, it's a very concrete process. Your endeavor to study line and form, number, and general external aspects, knowing that each line has significance. All numbers have their interpretation, and all forms are symbols of an inner quality and life. So we're familiar with this idea by now. Every concretion in a properly created symbol will have its higher correspondence, and nothing in the dense form of the symbol is insignificant. Okay, the study of symbols conceptually carries you inward from the brain to the mind, into the realm of, ideas, or at least thoughts, Ideas and thoughts are not the same, but sometimes he's not too particular about how he uses these two words. Ideas and thoughts are not the same, but DK is not always rigorous about the distinction. It sweeps into focus activity the mental apparatus, and you then become aware of the concept or idea which the sign or symbol embodies. Now, a symbol is always deeper than a sign. Generally speaking, when we are driving our car and we see a stop sign, we don't, ponder about the meaning in our lives. It just signals a certain act that we have to carry forward. So signs are generally more shallow and simply indicative of a simple process than a symbol will be. A symbol requires deeper contemplation. So you will then become aware of the concept or idea which the sign or symbol embodies. You comprehend its meaning because, the mental plane is the world of meaning, and especially the higher mental plane, and for what it stands. You comprehend its meaning, which generally has to do with the higher mental plane and that for which it stands. You grasp the purpose. Now, this is already entering the world of significance, for which the form has been brought into manifestation. This is the I don't know, is this correct? World of spirit and world of, I hope. Yes, this is the world of significance. Your study of number and of line has given you a rich background of knowledge upon the objective plane, a richness, in this case, dependent upon your own personal reading, mental equipment, and knowledge. So obviously, again, depending upon the sensitivity and skill and intelligence of the interpreter, so will be the degree of understanding. Your capacity to read a meaning into a symbol will be dependent upon also the richness of the meaning you ascribe to the events of your daily life and your ability to really meditate. So, we might say, how many of us really live in the world of meaning? So, how many of us really live in the world of meaning? And that is, he tells us, the world of the soul. I've gone through that, before. The world of objectivity is the lower 18 subplanes, the world of meaning, the higher 3 mental subplanes, the world of significance, particularly the Buddhic and Atmic plane. The world of being is the monadic plane, and the world of ultimate cosmic physical plane causes is the logoic plane, or at least the energies which are found on those levels. I would like to make clear to you that there is no set interpretation of any symbol. Now, that's really, really important. We get these books, and they say, well, when you think of this, it always means that. And though that's interesting, but to our particular consciousness and energy configuration, it may not mean the same thing at all. So we have to be very cautious about ascribing our own meaning to the symbol, and a good psychologist working with us on our dreams and visions will realize the highly individual nature of a symbol to any one of us. By the way, if anybody does have that Egoic Lotus, which is in blue and in yellow, you can send it to me and I'll substitute it. Okay, anyway, going on. So there's no set interpretation. And for each human being, that symbol, whatever it may be, will convey a unique meaning. A lack of interest in symbols presupposes usually a lack of interest in the due interpretation of life forms and their meaning. And what that usually means is that the person is trapped in the concrete mind and cannot extend what is encountered on the concrete mind to the abstract mind. In other words, the antikarana, even in the beginning phases, is not really in progress. Also, too much academic interest in symbols may presuppose a tortuous and intricate mind, twisting and turning, as Moria says, the cerebral sinuosity of the brain, or is it the mind? Anyway, it doesn't come up with much except complexity. It may presuppose a tortuous and intricate mind which loves design and line and form and numerical relationships, but which misses entirely the significance of the meaning. In other words, this is the classic forest and trees dichotomy. The balancing of the mind of form and concept, of expression and quality, of sign and meaning is vital to the growth of the disciple. So again, imbalance conceals, basically. and balance or right harmony reveals. Okay. The great need for most students is to arrive at meaning and to work with ideas and concepts. Now that's the first step, isn't it? This activity will necessitate the use of the mind to understand, and it's oftentimes the, where am I? Okay, the meditative mind held in the light of the soul, necessitate the use of the mind to understand, to grasp, and to interpret. It requires the development of that mental sensitivity which will enable its possessor to respond to the vibrations of what we call the universal mind, the mind of God, the instigator of the plan. Now, where do we find that? Where do we find the universal mind? It's obviously not the mind of the greatest logos in the entire universe, but I consider it really to be the mind of the solar logos, considering our little system as a kind of universe as it reflects itself through our planetary scheme and onto the cosmic physical plane. That's what, in this context, I consider the universal mind to be. And if we were going to, I'm not sure I can, I think I have a little problem here because, there we go. It won't move unless I move it. So the universal mind really is found here on the higher ethers where the solar logos expresses itself, the higher cosmic planes. This is where our solar logos with its causal body on the first subplane of the cosmic mental plane is found. And in a way, the cosmic atmic plane is also a reflection of a very exalted type of universal mind. Now, when we go over here to our more normal chart, that mind is expressed through the third subplane, particularly of the cosmic physical plane, and actually in the monadic nature, it's working out through the activity or intelligence aspect. It goes through the third cosmic subplane and then down to the monastic permanent atom and makes its way into the soul consciousness and the personality. So when we see something called universal mind, we cannot jump to conclusions that it means something so vast we cannot possibly hope to understand it. Well, it means something very vast, but it's more local than that. It involves the atmic plane, and it involves really the mind of the solar logos. At least that's my present understanding of this. So it requires the development of that mental sensitivity, which will enable its possessor to respond to the vibrations of what we call the universal mind, the mind of God, the integrator of the plan. Now, the Buddha could really do this. The Buddha was maybe the first of humanity to take the sixth initiation in such a way that he could touch the cosmic mental plane. I don't know whether the lower part of it or the upper part of it, I don't know. But he at least touched that level and brought down in his huge enlightenment some ray from that very, very high level. It presupposes also a certain ability to interpret. That's a Mercurian ability, and the power to express the idea underlying the symbol so that others may share it with you. Now, let's just say the abstract mind particularly gives this ability. What is it about the abstract mind? The abstract mind is not the same as the intuition, but it's the way of clothing certain simultaneously apprehended formless intuitions in thought. And so we have to work very meditatively to find the right type of abstract thought in which to really clothe an idea, and then we find concrete examples of it from the concrete mental plane. So, and a lot of us, let's say we're engaged in this kind of thing. It's a way of service, bringing down ideas that are really incorporeal beings. Let me put that down. You know the quote, ideas are beings incorporeal. And basically they give form and substance to shapeless matter. So if I can, let's see, I'll try to find the definition. Ideas incorporeal. There's 3 of these, and they should all be the same. This idea, yes, okay, an idea. Here it is, and this is really, really good. And this is something we should always bear in mind when we're thinking about what an idea really is, as opposed to merely an abstract thought or a concrete thought. An idea is a being. And like I said, every one of us and every atom is really an idea in the mind of the universal logos, at least while the universe is going on. An idea is a being incorporeal which has no subsistence of itself, but gives figure and form unto shapeless matter and becomes the cause of manifestation. So you can begin to see, so anyway, that's page 14. Well, we're coming up to that, aren't we? We would, if I had just been patient, we would have reached that point. Here's an idea incorporeal in itself, becomes a concretion on the plane of objectivity, and as stated above, an idea lies behind every form without exception, and no matter which group of creators is responsible for its construction. So I think we get the idea. It's like an etheric hyperform. It's not a concrete form at all, and it gives shape and substance to otherwise shapeless matter. All right, so that's something for us to bear in mind. And there are other quotations here, but I think we've gone far enough with that. You can look it up, the idea of idea and incorporeality. Right. Okay, almost, there we are. So it's incorporeal, and it's like an etheric prototype of a concrete form. So, can you not see how this power to study, to interpret, and to penetrate into meaning will further your spiritual growth? Well, maybe that's a question that we have to answer. Can we see that, and why would it further our spiritual growth? Can you believe that through the use of this method, you may learn to work more intelligently with the plan? Yes, and become a better helper of your fellow human beings, fellow man? Can we believe that? Okay, I think we can, but we want to be more precise about why we believe that, because, basically, we don't know much about what's going on the higher planes, but we need bridges of resonance, you might say, a resonant relationship, a graspable relationship which is resonant with an ungraspable relationship. That's what we need. What is there in this subjective world that is not the inadequate symbol of a divine idea? He's summing up. Okay, what have we in our outer manifestation but the visible sign at some stage of evolving purpose of the plan of the creating deity? In this case, let's say the planetary logos. It's close enough. What are you yourself but the outer expression of a divine idea It all begins with one great universal idea which subdivides, and each one of us along the way finds our identity as a particular aspect of the original divine idea, and then we return to being the entire divine idea one day. We must learn to see symbols all around us, and then to penetrate behind the symbol to the idea which, and I don't know why this is this way, which it should express. And, okay. This, however, is a technique of study which may be of service to you as you attempt to arrive at an idea and thus study conceptually the many symbols by which we are surrounded. It is largely the technique for which meditation should have prepared you. So obviously, this is not a beginner's technique. Not yet, no. The difference between this technique and meditation work is mainly one of polarization and goal. In the study of symbols conceptually, the consciousness is polarized in the mental body, and no attempt is definitely made to contact or involve the soul or ego, not yet. Herein lies the distinction between the second stage of symbol interpretation and ordinary meditation, in which the soul is contacted, and later, of course, we must esoterically contact the purpose of the idea. You have exhausted the method of familiarizing yourself with the form aspect of the symbol. It has 6 lines, 4 faces, 1, 2, 3, 4 vertices, and so forth, that kind of thing. You have exhausted the method of familiarizing yourself with the form aspect of the symbol, and you know well its outer contour and externalization. You know, too, that a peculiar series of lines, such as, for instance, the 3 lines forming a triangle, represent such and such an idea or truth or teaching. This is recorded in your brain, drawing on the resources of your memory. The registering of old information and knowledge anent the figures in a symbol serves to put your consciousness up onto the mental plane and to focus it there in the world of, ideas or concepts, thoughts or concepts. Basically, he's not being too particular how he uses the word ideas here. The concept exists already upon the concrete levels of the mental plane. They are your mental and racial heritage and are ancient mental forms, which you can now employ in order to arrive at meaning and significance. Okay, now, meaning and significance. All right. So meaning in the world of the soul and significance, significance in the world of the triad. And there's always going to be always a direction will be involved with significance. Okay, now let's see how much more of this we'll do before we get into our discussion. Maybe a little more. If it is an ancient statement of fact, which Plutarch expresses for us in the familiar words, okay, all I had to do was wait, right? An idea is a being incorporeal, which has no subsistence of itself, but gives figure and form unto shapeless matter and becomes the cause of manifestation. If we can just remember that particular definition of what an intangible idea is, we're going to be doing very well. And what page is that? It's page 14. So that's basically where we went to last time when we tried to figure out the definition of an idea. Remember, it's a being. An idea is a being. That's an amazing idea, I thought. And all of us are part of the ideation of the universal logos, which or whom we actually are. That's another point. The figure and form you have registered with your brain and memorized, and likewise its activity in time and space, along with its innate capacity to build the form and express through that form a concept or idea. Okay, so the figure and form you have registered with your brain and memorized, and likewise its activity in time and space, along with its innate capacity to build the form and express through that form a concept or idea. As you look inwards, you are becoming aware of the nature of the motivating idea through the study of its form and its demonstrated activity, and you are discovering the field of ideas of analogous nature in which the idea embodied is in the symbol finds itself. So associated ideas are here studied. This field of ideas, interrelated and mutually explanatory, is now open to you, or to any true esoteric student, I would say. And when we look at the groups on the higher mental plane and the groups on the Buddhic plane and so forth, what are they but aggregations of ideas that are related to each other for a particular purpose? That's what we are. Now, it may be a bit of a stretch to think of ourselves as being an idea. Usually we think of ourselves as a being and so forth, but an idea is a being with certain qualities, intentions, purposes, and so forth. This field of ideas, interrelated and mutually explanatory, is now open to you, and you will increasingly find yourself in a position to move in this world of concepts with freedom, as can the masters. To work and live in the world of ideas now becomes your objective and main effort. Now, this is antiquranic Buddhic consciousness. You train yourself in the recognition of ideas and concepts as they lie behind every form. This is called spiritual reading. Sorry. And you begin to think clearly about them and to see the direction in which they lead you and where within the eternal plan they fit. All right, now that's going to be it for tonight. There's so much to consider there. So this will be the end of academic reading. Okay, reading section. And the word is end, isn't it? And I forget where we are. Is this Joe or BL? Which one are we on? This is doggy number 60.
I thought you said it was 68, so the next one would be 60.
Okay, so this is the end of 60. Thanks so much. And this is the beginning of academic reading section, doggy 69. All right, this is a profound book, obviously, and it's unfamiliar in many ways. And let's see, where did we begin this reading? I always lose my place, what page it may have been. It wasn't, it was just an early page, wasn't it? Oh, I didn't even put it down, unfortunately, did I? Okay, does anybody know? It's page 11. All right, so, and where are we ending up? All right. Yeah, so this is ending page 11 and beginning page 11. And here we've reached page what? I really should have a better memory for this kind of thing. So this is from page 11 to page 14. Okay, page 15. So here it is, page 11 to, let's say, 14/15. Okay. Now, let's see what we think about these things, and let's just try something for a minute. Now, I would feel much better, and I've been looking for it actually for a while, to get Tuija's image there, but I think we can even now see something, and something will be left out of it because of the order of the petals, but at least we will have something. Now you look at this symbol. Okay, what is the outer form? What is the effect upon you? What is the concept? What is the synthesis of it? And what is the esoteric purpose? I think those are the qualities. So I just, when it comes to the outer form, by the way, I did count these things. Let's just say that we have 12 petals and 3 tiers. And that in the different petals, we have different numbers of colors. Now, we're not, at this point, worried about what colors we've got, what the meaning is. But we do make note of petal 1, 2, and 3, which are recessed. They're not close to the center, they're the farthest from the center. And they, all of them, they're made primarily, there's always 3 colors appearing. So the number 3 is found here in the outer group of petals, and always there is an orange. And that we have to note. In the next tier of petals, which is, where what Tuija did correct, we have the number 4 appearing. And when you look at red here, just imagine we're really looking at the color rose. And every one of these has not only the orange, but has the rose as well. There's all of them have the orange and rose. When we go still more interiorly, we have 5. Now we won't worry about the concept yet. Why 5? Okay, we'll do that later. We have 5. And every one of them has not only an orange, not only a rose, but every one of them has a yellow. And that's the only new color that every one of them has. Now, these inner 3, it's a number 3, and let's just say 3, 3, and 3, we've got the number 9 involved, we've got 3, we've got 4, we've got 5, and if we add up 3, 4, and 5, we get 12, don't we? 3 and 4 is 7, and a 5 is a 12, so adding up the kinds of divisions within each petal, we arrive at the number 12, which is, perhaps significant. And then we have a 3, and this 3 is involved in the innermost set of petals, and we won't worry about all of the origins of these things. We could say, where does it all come from? And it does come from the triad and other places, but we won't worry about that right this moment. And then we have a central kind of sun, and interestingly, the number is 24. At least it's meant to be, and I counted it, I enlarged it, and the number is 24 surrounding the central nucleus. Okay, so let's, from what little bit we know right now, are there any additional outer factors which we can count or notice about the form? Now, that's what I want to deal with right at this moment. I'll answer your other questions or deal with your other questions later. So let's look at this. What I've just done is to review the outer form of this egoic lotus symbol. And I'll be searching for the other one and get it correct. Do you see anything else there that I've left out? What would you say about the outer form that needs to be said without interpreting? Not yet interpreting, because every one of these factors means something, but we're not going to interpret yet. So what do you see? Okay, let's see. Okay, I'll tell you what, Jan and Yvonne and all right. Yeah. I'll tell you what I'll do. Yvonne, I will spend an entire meeting on interpreting the Moria Federation symbol. If I try to go into that right now, we're going to be here all day because a lot went into it, so I'll do that as long as we're dealing with symbols. Thanks for the reminder. And right, just answer very briefly. Imagination will have a very strong effect because it comes from the second level of the emotional plane, where we have imagination's level 2, and it correlates with the Buddhic plane directly, where the first level of ideas come. So when we're working with the imagination, we can make it resonant with the ideas found on the Buddhic plane, and that's actually one of the techniques of building the Antakarana. So yes, let us find ways to make our imaginings resonant with the formless beings on the Buddhic plane that we want to invoke. All right, any other concrete things that you see here? Okay, and maybe you have a thought, Michael? Go ahead.
Okay, hi, Michael again.
Hi.
When we flip number 7 and number 8, the way Tuija has it drawn up, the 3 knowledge petals are touching the 3rd subplane. The 3 love petals, flip 2 down a little bit, but the 3 love petals are touching the 2nd subplane, and the 3 sacrifice petals are touching the 1st subplane.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Hey, by the way, do you have a copy of that?
I do not.
Oh, jeez. All right.
Okay. I can look again. But, you presented that quite a while ago.
Yeah, I did. And now my wife is traveling right now, and she's trying to tune in on the phone, but I see she's having difficulty doing that, so I cannot immediately access that. So we'll leave that idea for a little bit later when I get the proper symbol. Okay. In one way, I'm glad she's not here because she would really have my head, Okay. A good way for an Aries type to go. All right, we'll do that. So is there anything else external? Because I'm not going to go through the entire process tonight. I'm just going to go through a few of these things, okay? So there are 5 to go through, and I'll go back just a little bit and try to reach the 5 modes of interpretation. Here it is, right there. Maybe these 3 at first we can do, and then we'll deal with 4 and 5 the next time we get together. All right, so is there anything else external? Yes, Anne, as soon as I can get it myself, I'll be happy to put in the handouts Tuija's Egoic Lotus, and everybody can have it. And she's probably driving and saying, oh, if I were only there, I could give it to you, but that's the way it is.
Michael?
Yes, Biel, is that you?
Yes. I'm getting emails from Joe. She has gone to Tuija and asked her for it. And Joe said that she will send it out to everybody once she gets the copy.
Okay, that's good.
Don't get it before the end of the webinar. We have a mechanism to send it out.
We may not, because she's on the phone and she's driving somewhere between here and there, and she probably can't respond. And I don't want to take the time to go hunting. Like so many other things, that proper image is on this computer. But the task of finding it would be daunting. Okay, so we'll get that for you. And that is one fine point of interpretation, but we're not quite yet for interpretation, okay? All right, are there anything anything? We have curved forms, largely. They are meant to be curved forms. Some are a little bit pointy, but okay, that's probably the only way they could diagram that. We have a circle of 9. We have a circle of what can I say? It's a circle of 12, and we have a circle of 15. Now, 9 and 12 are 22. Is that it? Okay, this is the circle of 9, and then we have a circle of 12. 9 and 12 are 21, right? And add 15, we get 36. So you know what I'm doing. In other words, there are 36 different divisions here. Some of them are repetitious, but the colors suggest 36. Again, 3 and 6 add up to a 9. So for quite a while, we're dealing with that which relates to 9 when we stay with the outer circle of petals. When we go into this group, they're never portrayed yet. They are the synthesis petals of the Egoic Lotus. And of course, they will have a structure, and they'll relate to will, wisdom, and activity, or will, love, and intelligence. They will relate, but they are not depicted by the Tibetan in the way that they are. They are not depicted. But something inside the central sun or circle is depicted with a very interesting number 24. And when we look at that interpretation, that concept, we'll get into that. Are there any other factors I'm missing? Perhaps the circle around the entire lotus has to be considered as the periphery of the causal body itself. So that is a great unifying factor. Now, all right, the next step. Let's see, I just want to make sure I'm handling this properly. There are different kinds of questions that are coming up, different kind of statements, and but I think I already examined those just a little bit. A circle of 24 in the middle, exactly, and that's a very important one, Anne, and we'll make sure that all of you get the right lotus. Tuija would like you to have the right lotus. Okay, BL, Alexandra, BL Joe Michael just sent you an email with a lotus on blue. Not sure if it's the lotus he is talking about. I came in late, and maybe that's it, because Tuija has a blue one and a yellow one. Maybe.
Yeah, this one has rose colors.
Okay.
This one has rose colors in it.
Let's get that one right up here. Can we do that into the handouts? And then we'll be looking at a better form, and everybody can copy it. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate that. Why was the specialized meditative groups of Alice Bailey formed never more than 9 members? It's possible there, Rose, and Moria was big on the number 12 for the dodecahedron. He said it was invincible, but the 9 was always considered complete, and the 9 was really a 12, the way DK actually worked it out. I'll have to show you another chart. But 9 was considered the number of completion, and all of these groups of 9 were meant to fill out entirely, except for the last group, which was to be a group of 27. So I haven't really added that up. Sort of 9 times 9 is 81. And what happens if we add 27 to 81? What do we get? Anybody there? Is 116 or something like that? What is 27 plus 81? Anybody? Before I,
108.
Is that it? Wow. Okay, perfect.
27 plus 81.
Yeah, 20. Yeah, perfect. So that is the number very much associated with the head center and with all the temples and with the names of Lakshmi that we're doing in the Blue Rose Sisterhood, and with the number of Kumaras that came to our globe with Sanat Kumara from the second or Venus chain of our globe. 108. And why do I say that? We usually hear about the 105 Kumaras, right? The holy youths, these flaming, chaste beings. It's 104 plus Sanat Kumara, 105. 3 Buddhas of activity who are esoteric Buddhas or esoteric Kamaras make it 108. So that's perfect. That does very, very well for the numerical symbology. Let's see, what else have we got? Okay, great. So the handout is coming, right? Alexandra, you are going to send that to whom? To me? Or do you have a BL and Joe's address?
I just sent it to you. I just sent it to you as well, Michael. It should be in your inbox.
Okay. This is the kind of thing that, you know, I'm guilty here of. What can I say? Okay, so move this down a little bit. Okay, this is Tuija's Egoic Lotus. That's it. Oh, marvelous. So see what the group can do? That's it. Okay. So this has the truer colors, and it satisfies the idea, although the planes are, yeah, it satisfies what Michael was talking about as well. So open with multifolder. I think I don't want to get too hung up here, and obviously I am quite hung up. So let's try this, show in folder, and here it is. And I'll copy and go any place, I guess. And let's see, what have we got here? Glamour project. And I'll just try this, paste, and we'll try this. Okay, there we are. And right, let's see if I can make this work. And this is the one that we've been looking for. And, you know, really red, very interestingly, is only found as a general tint for Ray 1 souls, but red is not found in the colors of the Egoic Lotus. So this is a truer representation, and interestingly enough, the knowledge petals are touching where they're supposed to, I believe. The love petals, yeah, 1, 2, 3, but that's another matter. We won't get into that right now. They touch on all the different levels, or almost so. Each one touches on 3 different levels. All right, now we have this, which is good, and I feel relieved. Thank you, group work. Appreciate that. All right, now let us take one more step, at least one more step. Let's contemplate what we have in front of us, and reserve a little document for yourself on your computer, off to the side, maybe in Word or whatever you use, and get the overall qualitative effect as it impacts you. You have to sort of let it sink in for a little while, and then put some words on what it means to you when you receive this, the impression of this symbol in your nature. So let's have a little time of silence here. And of course, we can look at the symbol because it's coming in, as it were. I'll tell you what, you may want to do more of this, okay? BL, is it possible to put this image in the handouts so that everybody can get a hold of it?
Okay. My understanding of how to do that is that we have to do it prior to the beginning of the webinar. But as I said, Joe is going to put it out to everybody on the list. So she will send it to him later on today. So.
Okay. Actually, I did it in the middle of a program last time. I put something in there in the middle while it was going on, but
okay, let me see if I can do
just
that.
see what's possible. Okay. Now look, maybe we have a little sharing. Okay, just a little, not many words, just quick impressions of what this has brought to you. Very quick, not elaboration. I'll just give you mine. I'll say tremendous qualitative potential. Those are the words that impress me, or the feeling that impressed me. Does anybody want to offer? Just raise your hand if you would like to offer a few words about the impression that you received. Anybody? Or maybe some of you are writing it down. It's a little easier, perhaps, if you just speak up, but or maybe you need more time with it. I just saw the tremendous richness of our higher mental plane life in potential, and how all these qualities, planetary and ray qualities, fill out a tremendous temple in the heavens, a temple of King Solomon in the heavens. And I felt very uplifted, I guess you can say. It's kind of like the emotional reaction that we're looking for here. How does he describe it? A comprehension in the astral or emotional body of its quality, the reaction of a sensitive response to the impact of its qualitative nature. I felt, uplifted and inspired and determined to somehow unfold this great apparatus by the right means. And I suppose that's, an emotional qualitative reaction. Anybody else? Okay, so yes, Rose, go ahead. Yes, go ahead. Yes? Okay, you should be on. Looks like you're okay. I saw your hand. Okay, we'll come back. We'll come back. Okay, go to the question box here, and imagine the question box is quite full, huh? Okay, yes?
I think you can hear me now.
Yes, I can. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, it was interesting because immediately when the image came up, you could feel a very difference in quality. And the quality, the words that would come to my mind were like synthetic, holistic, dynamically gentle, and very rich, very deep and whole. It's difficult to find words, but the interesting part was the immediate difference in quality that could be sensed with this image versus the one with the red.
Yes, okay. Well, thank you. MC, what's right is what's right for anybody. It's just what the impression is upon us. So we can refine that as we go along, and thanks for sharing that. Appreciate that. Anybody else would like to share their immediate impression briefly? Briefly. I don't know why I can't open up my question box. Oh, I know why, because it's way down here. That's the problem. Activating and stimulating, says Joan. Good anchor for a healing grid in light language, says Stacia. To me, the image seems imbalance. Well, the mind is maybe coming in there, Jan, possibly. Of course, we're not dealing with perfection here, and we know that the real Egoic Lotus is DK's description of it is amazing, so it's not the real thing, but okay. And look, the interesting thing is, I was just reading in White Magic today. I finished now the 47th program, almost finished with the mental plane, in the White Magic. And oh gosh, what was I what was I going to say there? Yes, he says we have to assess our own imbalances. Every one of us comes into life with too much of this and too little of that. And finally, we get a good, objective view a little bit later in life. And then we have to start subduing and stimulating, putting some things down, raising other things up. And he says you do this with astrology too. You study your chart in that way, subduing some things, raising other things. So, when we look at a thing like this, it may be evoking in us a realization of our own imbalances. I'm not sure that any one of us is a perfectly balanced creature, Probably we have areas that we have to stimulate and other areas that have gone too far. And maybe an image like this, speaking of the Temple of Solomon, will help us with that. Now, the interesting thing is, for most people, before this stage, the Egoic Lotus is unbalanced. Why do I say that? Because we have tendencies that build along certain lines, and we have areas of unfulfillment in the lotus that have to be filled in. Now, this particular view is meant to be the complete unfoldment of a particular kind of egoic lotus. We don't know what, maybe sort of on the second ray with all that blue in the background, that is ready to be destroyed. This is the ready to be destroyed egoic lotus, which is as unfolded as it can be before destruction. But every one of them will look different. And if you come to people who are not yet initiates of this third degree or the second degree or the first degree, there's going to be all kinds of imbalance that has to be filled in. So this is not, of course, meant to be an unbalanced picture, but looking at the normal egoic lotus of the normal person or even the normal disciple, you will find imbalance because of uneven development along certain ray lines. So I think that's interesting, and one day when we can just really focus on those things, we'll see that for ourselves. Okay, now let's see the beauty of connections from Gail. Thank you, Gail. It's a more refined and dynamic image, says Anne. It is, too. You did a good job with that. We just have to, figure out if something is grating on us and we feel a disharmony, we have to meditate on it. Okay, good. Well, that's the idea.
Okay, Michael?
Yes.
I tried adding that and I couldn't. I tried logging in as you and I couldn't.
Yeah. Okay.
And Joe says only you can add during the program. So.
Okay. Now I get it. But I'm not going to take the time to do that. Okay. So basically, all of you who are attending this will receive Tuija's rendition of the Egoic Lotus. There's also another one somewhere that has even more yellow in the background, and I don't know how it fell off my computer or I fell off it. I'm not sure, but it is a difference, and it's more accurate because red is not represented in any of the petals per se. Although a first-ray soul might have a general feeling of red surrounding and interpenetrating in a way that we cannot draw in 2 dimensions and so forth. Okay, now let's see. I I don't want to miss anything because some of you would rather speak through love and sacrifice dominate with Rose. Okay, Stacia. Okay. Look, there's nothing right or wrong about this. It's how it affects you. When I look at this thing, I just feel tremendously inspired about the process of evolution and about the process of being a human being moving into the fifth kingdom. I just say, all that richness, that's been a word that's been used very often, all that richness waiting for us, all that unfoldment, the so-called rich young man, third degree initiate, and so forth, and unfolding even more after the third degree. We really are building a beautiful temple up there, and one day we will know exactly what we have built, only to destroy it so that a greater type of love can enter in. Okay, well, you know what? That's as far as I dare to go today. But you will have this Egoic Lotus picture. It'll be sent to you. Excuse me. And when we meet again in a week, we'll continue with number 3. A conceptual consideration of its underlying idea of what it is intended to teach, of the intellectual meaning it is intended to convey. And a little bit farther down the pike here, where we read today, let's see, is it an intuitive perception of the symbols, or is it, number 1, the investigation of the symbol and the consequent progress of the analyst from one progressive state of awareness to another? All right, well, these are much more general than the specific 5 that we've been given. So let's stick to the 5 up here on page whatever. I assume you all either have the book or can go to the Lucis Trust to copy it or get it, and or that you have the Alice Bailey CD-ROM, without which I don't think life would be worth living. Okay, I know, it's a drastic statement, but that CD-ROM really helps. So here we are on page 10 and 11. So before we meet next time, just examine these 5 symbolic steps. What we've done is we've counted up interesting numbers, I think. Maybe we haven't gotten them all, but we've seen the 3, the 4, the 5, and their combination as in sequence, interestingly, as the 12. We've seen the 9, we've seen the 24, we've even seen the 108. There's a 60 lurking in there somewhere, and I forget how we got to 108. Does anybody, how did we get there? We did get there. We added 27 to 81, and how did we get the 81? Well, anyway, I'll review that. Does anybody care to refresh my...
Was it the 9 seed groups of 9 people each?
That was it. Okay. Right, exactly. Thank you. And then he said, take 3 from each of the previous 9 seed groups, and you'll get 27, which is the number to fit into the totally synthetic seed group of magicians. Okay, so that's the last one. And that's very interesting. And maybe, I think what's going to happen is when he comes back again, he's going to work further on that seed group project, because a lot would have been cleared, and all of these particular seed groups are really going to give their esoteric value to the type of practice out there in the world that correlates with the seed group. So anyway, thanks, BL, for reminding me on that. 81 plus 27, 108. And we talked about its significance for the temple, all Hindu temples. And we talked about the 108 Kumaras. They're usually considered to be the 104, 105. But if we take the 3 esoteric Kumaras, we get 108. And I think if you divide, so what happens if you divide 12, how does it go, into 960? What do we get? How many of the, anyway, it has to do with the division of 12, 10, 96, 972. It all has to do with the head center, this number 108. And of course, there are, in the Blue Rose Sisterhood, where we are working, and Tuija's, working with people on that, the 108 names of Lakshmi, the 108 names of Shiva. It's a very, very potent number. As a matter of fact, there's other ways to break it down into the 1, the 0, and infinity. So it's an amazing number. All right. Before we meditate on quite a different subject, let's see. I said, Yvonne, I will, and with Tuija's presence, undertake the explanation of the Moria Federation symbol, which involves many factors, including the number 24. And by the way, we're not getting into that yet, but just a hint, what is the number 24? Does anybody know? Aside from there being 24 hours in the day, it's a number particularly associated with a particular planetary center. Maybe you know what that is, right? Okay, so, that is a very interesting number. And really, you can derive all of the yugas and the kalpas and all of that from reference to the number 24. It also has a lot to do with our own solar logos, but it is particularly the number of Shambhala, 24, a 6. 2 plus 4 is 6, and if that 6 comes from the 24, and of course the 24 hours, the complete synthesis of time. So it's the Shambhalic number, and it really fits right there in the middle of the Egoic Lotus, doesn't it? But I'm getting into concepts now, and I don't want to do that just yet. So far, we have looked at the outer form, and then we've looked at its impression upon us. And the next time we get together, if someone will be so good as to remind me, thanks, Mike, we will get into, we will, what will we get into the next time? Yeah, concept. We'll get into concept. Okay, and a few other things have been said. Lighted energetic force. And Antoinette, that was an impression. And Michael gave me this. Now let's see. Now, if we multiply, let's see what happens if we. No, I'll do it later. I'm going to get off into concepts, and I don't want to do that right now. Okay, now we go back to. We've been dealing with issues of truth, hopefully. And now we deal with another matter. Now, obviously, if the great wisdom of the solar angel, angel of the presence, came through to us and permeated our mind and our energy system, we would not be identified with the personality. And to protect the personality and its desires, we would not be in the business of fabricating and lying and so forth. We wouldn't do it. So let's see. That's what we're talking about now. It's just getting worse and worse as you look at it. And people are just fighting for their personality life. I know I'm not supposed to talk politics, but I just looked up the horoscope of the head of the National Rifle Association. His name is Wayne Lapierre. I could identify him as a Scorpio immediately. Something about the eyes and the whole manner. And then that Mars is in Sagittarius. And that's where you hold the gun or you hold the bow, and it's just perfect. There are many factors in that chart which make him a great representative for the aggression of the personality and calling it freedom. Okay, so we have a real attack by the representatives of the counterforce who don't even really know they are representatives of that force. They think they're defending freedom and all the rest of it. they're, you know, they're away from socialism, and they're horrified by socialism. But an enlightened socialism is what the hierarchy is. It's the Aquarius model. It's not the lazy socialism where people just sit back and let the state support you. It's not that at all. It's really caring for the other person under the Aquarian model. So there's a huge battle going on right now between these retrogressive forces. And now, you know, I'm tempted to go off and look at his horoscope and show it to you, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that right now, especially since his rising sign is not determined, though I think I may know what it is. But anyway, there are these people who speak for the personality. And to protect the personality, they'll do anything. And of course, lying is a big thing. How to protect the personality from the consequences of its acts. And so that's what we're working against now. We are working to dissipate this glamour of fabrication. So I thank you all for your contributions. And excuse me, and your thoughts here. I appreciate that very much. And okay, we'll just keep up the good work here. Okay. Right, let's get into our meditation. Remembering that the more our mind is illumined by the soul, which this kind of study can bring, the more effective we can be as a subjective rescue team, as it were, on the inner planes, with our efforts working out into outer possibilities, outer improvements, let us say. Okay, so just silence a little while. And in the silence, the group does come together, and all of its forces tend to synthesize, and you can feel it. You can feel it. Now, we're going to use the cross of divinity, the long cross, he calls it. The Aquarian cross is maybe more even, but there are different interpretations here. Anyway, we'll go with what he says. In order to have a lighted cross, which protects ourselves and the group in this work where the major forces of Mara are concentrated on the systemic astral plane, Marakara, as it's called. Dangerous business. So, as a soul, I work in light, and darkness cannot touch me. I take my stand within the light. I work, and from that point, I never move. And that lighted cross should be seen radiating in our individual nature and in general for the group. It is a protection in a dangerous, subtly dangerous field. Now, we prepare the three lights. We draw up the light of vitality, of the light of matter, etheric, physical particularly, onto the mental plane where we think normally. And we have the mental light, our reasoning power, our ability to reason and reach greater light. So we put those two together, the light of matter and the light of lower mind. And then we call upon the soul. We visualize or touch in with, above the head, let us say, if we want to localize it, the light of the soul. Every one of us is really potentially in touch with this infusing, supervising being, the extension of the solar angel, the angel of the presence, and we bring that light down imaginatively and fuse it with the other two lights, with the light of mind, customary mind, and the light of matter vitality. The three lights we envision as being fused into one. And that's all on the plane where we do our thinking. Our imagination allows us to fuse three lights into one, and we know that what we do imaginatively, eventually we do in reality. So we will say together, and you can say it out loud in your home, wherever you are. The light is one, and in that light shall we see light. This is the light that turns the darkness into day. So here is going to be a very potentially bright light. It's our instrument, it's revelation, it's a weapon, it's a way of operating. And we control it from the plane of mind. And now using the formula, which is 2 sentences, we're going to turn on the light onto the astral plane. That's a great searchlight. We're searching out where the glamour of lying is found, why it is existing there, what's it doing, to humanity's progress and all that. And we're getting ready to really apply it, apply our searchlight. So we'll let that beam of the triple light go forth into that rather dark and swirling world of distortion, where the light of truth does not usually shine. And we will say, radiance are we and power. We stand forever with our hands stretched out, linking the heavens and the earth, the inner world of meaning and the subtle world of glamour. It's the world of the soul, the world of meaning, and the subtle world of glamour. We reach into the light and bring it down to meet the need. We reach into the silent place and bring from thence the gift of understanding. Thus with the light we work and turn the darkness into day. The emotions, the psychism, and all that can be a great veil upon intuitively derived truth. It doesn't get through because of all the conditions of the astral plane. So we're bringing in that higher light, and we're going to dissipate the barriers to the appearance of truth in this greatest of the illusory spheres. Every plane is a sphere, we know. So we're standing as disciples in a group between that bright light of the soul and of the intuition, and we're bringing it down to meet the need of ridding this astral plane in which so many live, ridding it of the distortions and the confusing, blocking, destructive situations. And now we're going to invoke the spiritual will to make our beam even stronger. The spiritual will, you know, coming from the heights of the universe, but for practical purposes, from the monad, from Atma, through the jewel in the lotus, through the synthesis petals, through the sacrifice petals, and so forth. Spiritual will, by means of which we help to make divine plan reality. And we say, as we strengthen our beam with power upon its beam, the light is focused on the goal. That goal, the revelation of the roots of this glamour of lying, of falsehood, and so forth. Our beam is strengthened in its revelatory power. It is strengthened in its destructive, dissipating, scattering power. Now, we're going to use the words of power. But before we do, let us look out there into human living and see the destructive effect, the distorting, blocking, counterproductive effect of this glamour of lying, this tendency towards falsification, making up, alternative facts, making up your own reality when there is a real reality. What does that mean for humanity? Let's ponder for a few moments on what that means. This great glamour, the old saying, the devil is the father of lies. It prevents the divine plan from truly manifesting. If we look at it, just a summary of what it does. It fragments everything and breaks up trust between people and makes group work impossible, soul work impossible. And it's just like every personality for itself, preserving its own desires and their attainment. So it's very destructive, and that we recognize. So now, let us then name the glamour and utter the words of power. Light is thrown into this glamour using our revelatory weapon, the beam, the will-inspired beam, and we're going to weaken that glamour as we see it in various ways according to the functioning of our imagination. With the power of our united light prevents the appearance of the glamour of lying, misleading, misrepresentation, falsification, lying. The power of our united light prevents the appearance of the glamour of lying. The power of our united light negates the quality of this glamour from affecting humanity. The power of our united light destroys the life, the vitality behind the glamour. Now we will have our 5 minutes of silence and intensity of purpose, and we see the work proceeding, penetrating the glamour, producing weakening and dissipation, each working as a member of the group and visualizing the group working in this way. So 5 minutes of intense working silence. So we continue then with our week by week with our dissipation and destructive work of these barriers to the soul energy and the higher energies being radiated from the astral plane. We work to correct the distorted conditions of the greatest of all the planes of illusion. That's what we're doing, and we continue and we learn, and as a group we get better and better at doing this. Meanwhile, we work upon whatever glamours we may encounter within ourselves. It's always difficult, but sometimes those close to us can help us see what we don't see, and then according to the rays, look around page 120 or so of this book, and you'll see the glamours of the rays. And maybe you'll fit in there, and they are individual glamours, and the more you can rid yourself of them, the more effective you will be, I will be in this group work we are attempting. So, okay, friends, that's going to be the end of that. We're going to close with the great invocation. We'll do that, and tomorrow well, let's just have 3 ohms to seal the work as the light is drawn back. So don't forget your own individual work on the glamours you may recognize. Tomorrow we'll have the Soul of Nations work, and it's also our emergency work where we find situations that we have to intervene with as a group and assist. There's lots of things going on right now and lots of distortions of the truth around the situation of guns in society, and maybe that will be touched upon. It depends, Tuija will make the decision on that. That's a bad one, though. And the continual protection of the personality and the disregard for that which really unifies us, the soul. The second ray is fighting for its life in today's world, but it will win. It has to, as the second ray soul of the planet emerges and as the Christ and his hierarchy move closer and closer. So then you will be sent Tuija's Lotus, okay? And we'll work on concept next time. We're going to look at those 5 things, and next time we'll work on the concept of what the Egoic Lotus presents to you. Admittedly, it's quite a advanced symbol, and actually, I had in mind another advanced symbol to show you how tricky it can get. In Cosmic Fire here on page 1256 is the symbol of the 3rd cosmic path. Now, our friend and brother Dwayne Carpenter has probably made illustrations of these on his website, so it would be great to be able to get a hold of those and show them while we're thinking about them. We'll look at various symbols, and And Dwayne has done a lot of these, and in a very, very high quality. All right, so the Great Invocation, and that will be it for this evening. At least this evening here, right? So here it is. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth. Thank you, everybody, and don't forget to make your plans to come to our 32nd International Conference, the Christ and the Buddha and the Christ, Radiant Wisdom, All-Pervading Love. Love to see you there, and bye for now. This will be on Makara before too long, and you'll be able to tune in or suggest to others that they can follow these things even if they weren't able to make it at the exact time. All right. See you then. All the best. Bye-bye.